All right, this is our next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing our Halloween Havoc retro series. We're going to go over Halloween Havoc 1996. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank, and let's get into this one. This was a lot better than the last two we've done because now we've got the NWO, we've got the cruiserweights, we've got a
Yep.
roster. The only thing that really I couldn't stand, and I muted it half the time, was I couldn't stand the commentating crew.
Well,
With that
Bobby was
shit.
there, though. I mean,
Bobby was there, but Dusty wouldn't shut up. You couldn't
yeah,
understand him, and Shivani kept insulting the man and kept pretty much telling him to shut up.
yeah,
And then but Heenan kept interrupting him and going, well, if you let me finish, he said, well, if you would get the words out of your mouth, we'll let you finish.
yeah. I know you're saying the commentary wasn't that good.
I don't understand. When Dusty was good on so many things, but commentating was not it. And I don't know how many times, if I had a nickel for every time watching it, he said, well, this is where the big boys play.
Yeah. Well, remember
So
back then in '96, like that was their mantra.
I
That was
know,
like
but they
their
were
they kept
overselling that thing.
on. I'm like, I know.
But this was October 27th, 1996 from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
10,000 in the stands. Again, it wasn't a bad card. We're gonna run down it right now. The opening match was for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. It was Rey Mysterio Jr. defending the title against Dean Malenko,
The
not
man of
referee Dean Malenko,
a thousand holds.
and he used most of them in this match. This was a really, really good match. The Cruiserweights was
So it
always
was.
a favorite of mine, watching on Nitro and the pay-per-views.
They were the glue. They were the glue to the card.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when these guys eventually wanted to be more than a cruiserweight, Bischoff didn't want to hear it. That was one of his many issues.
Sorry, guy. I did like Dave Malenko's song. Even though I thought Dave Malenko was boring, I did actually like his entrance music.
I like Mysterio's too.
Yeah.
It was like for dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
They all starting now they all had some pretty decent stuff where
Yeah,
back in
no,
the
they
early
did.
90s it looked like it was just like seriously thrown
It's
together on a Casio.
it's a shame that some of it is now censored because of the copyrights. So they have to use generic music sometimes in some of the
Like DDP's because you remember he had the Nirvana.
Teen Spirit, yeah.
And I love the opening Self High
Five,
Five.
yeah.
And now you get the ridiculous one they got now. And they even did that in the video game too. And I got pissed off about that because I really liked his entrance theme. So this was a 18-minute, 32-second match. These guys pulled out all the stops. This was a storyline over a mask. He finally gets his old mask back.
We had a mask on top of a mask.
Yeah, thank God we didn't have to see that ugly puss of his. You know, you can see it in Ready to Rumble, but you've never seen Ready to Rumble.
Yeah.
And so this is and believe it or not, this is a 21-year-old Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, he was young
at this point.
Kid.
And he was a 7-year veteran at this point because he started at 14. So now he's 46 and still, but he can't do half the stuff he's doing now. Or doing back then, rather. But, I mean, these guys just impressed the hell out of me. Malenko gets the victory and becomes once again the Cruiserweight champion. And this wouldn't be the last time these two guys got in the ring together.
I like how Bobby was like, "That's move 800," or something like that.
He kept going off the list.
Yeah.
The best was when Jericho,
later on.
Raw,
yeah,
move 922 arm bar, and then what was it? The Saskatchewan belly to belly flying suplex, and then the next one would be arm bar. Classic stuff, man. The few times that WCW entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Our next match, and I couldn't stand the pay-per-view they did this for because it was cheesy. That you remember when they did the Battle Bowl ring?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the winner gets a title shot, which never happened. And for people that don't know, Battle Bowl was consisted of two random guys being teamed together in a tag team match. If you win, you go into a battle royal later on in that evening, and the winner gets a title shot, supposedly. They replaced it eventually with World War III.
Right, yeah.
Which is the ghetto version of the Royal Rumble. So in this case, for the Battle Bowl ring, it was Eddie Guerrero versus the man that had the ring, Diamond Dallas Page.
Yep.
And this is where Page was starting to come into his own. Mm-hmm. Still a heel, but his popularity was growing. This match was pretty good.
It was a good match.
Guerrero did real well with him in the ring. 13 minutes, 44 seconds. DDP gets his ring back. And I think this was the one where Nick Patrick was also reffing with the neck brace on.
Yeah, and that comes into play later on.
Oh my God,
But
Nick Patrick.
you know what was funny? He does the diamond cutter, and Shivani says, "Oh, but Guerrero's hands were in front of him." So he says something to the effect that he's probably gonna kick out because he didn't get all of it. It's got to
Yeah,
be his head that hits his face that hits the mat from to get knocked out, but he still lost. He didn't kick out. 1, 2, 3.
Shivani's a nut.
Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
like,
I'd rather listen to Mike Tenay. Didn't get enough credit on the announced thing. Mike Tenay was the most knowledgeable. He was like Jim Ross. He was the most knowledgeable
yeah,
announcer they had. He knew the backgrounds on everybody. He knew the moves and he knew how to call a match. Shivani was just a putz. And Dusty Rhodes, well, I'm surprised Bobby wasn't drinking at ringside.
mm.
In any event, we go to our next match. One of your favorites.
Oh no.
It was Jeff Jarrett, a honorary horseman, four horsemen,
Yeah,
not really in there yet.
Ric Flair cuts
Supposedly
a promo with
was
him
injured.
earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he cuts a promo, and then Ric Flair's in his corner. He's like his coach. He's like Mickey from Rocky.
yeah.
And you got Jeff Jarrett and broke 6,000 guitars, never drew a dime.
And he's facing a guy, the Giant, who stole the WCW United States title from Ric Flair, which they even admitted, oh, this title will have to be vacated because Flair won't be able to defend it because he's supposedly injured. Meanwhile, he ain't walking around like he is.
Flair's screaming at him, get up, get up. You know.
Yeah, it's like Mickey, get up, yes, son of a
Yeah.
bitch. I mean, Jarrett, for the most part, held his own against the 7-foot monster. But the Giant gets the win by DQ thanks to Ric Flair and his low blow antics.
Right. This is like
Ric
NWO.
Flair didn't show the helicopter though.
And this is the beginning of NWO versus WCW because Jarrett was kind of like defending WCW. You know,
and at the same time, later on, becomes back to the Four Horsemen against the Dungeon of Doom.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like we don't know who we want to fight yet. We just want to fight. And the worst member of the Four Horsemen comes later, and that'd be Mongo. But I mean, Jarrett kind of held his own, but it was funny every time he does a move. Giant's just pretty much laughing it off. But the NWO the NWO gets the victory in this one, and I like how DiBiase and Vincent had their little NWO corner, and they're interviewing up there, and they would come down from there.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Our next match was another WCW versus NWO match. This was Chris Jericho versus the man making his pay-per-view debut in WCW, Six.
Yeah.
And, a special side note, what's funny is when Chris Jericho came into the WWE and made his pay-per-view debut, you know who he faced?
X-Pac?
Yes. It's like a return of the favorite type thing. I thought, but that match was a stinker. This one was good.
Yeah.
I still couldn't get over the fact that the 1, 2, 3 kid is there, even though shortly after he couldn't cut the mustard.
Yeah.
But I mean, this was a good cruiserweight match between the two. This was the Lionheart Chris Jericho trying to get over fast. Come on, baby!
Yep.
Before he got all nuts, and crybaby stuff. But this was the good Chris Jericho. Six put on a great performance. Both of them showed their cruiserweights abilities. 9-minute, 49-second match. Six actually gets the victory, thanks to our favorite NWO referee as well. And this is where they were talking about the count, how Jericho had pretty much a 6 count, no pun intended. And then when Six made the pin, it was 1, 2, 3. Of course, they had a referee.
They had him in the bag.
I mean, come on. We all knew it. It wasn't nothing, no surprise. If you're going to take over, you got to have a referee. So in any event, NWO is 2-0 at this pay-per-view. Our next match was a feud dating back to War Games when Lex Luger and Arn Anderson. And this is a Horseman versus Dungeon of Doom match, pretty much, because Luger was sort of part of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you get a look at his weird hairdo there?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with his hair.
Bobby said he looked like Phyllis Diller. I don't know what was going on. Like he stuck his finger in a socket.
I don't know. Yeah, it was weird. It was like he looked like Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. He was in great shape, though. A lot leaner than he was back in the days, but he was cut up.
Yeah.
He was in great shape. And
both of them looked pretty good. Even Arn Anderson looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, especially for Arn's age at the time.
Yeah. And the nagging injury that they exploited here.
Yeah, that's right.
He had the nagging neck injury that eventually keeps him out.
Eventually he has to retire because of it. And they were playing the angle that, like, Luger dropped the ball.
Yes.
At War Games, right? He was saying that it was his fault, what happened, and so
that War Games match was shot from the beginning when they didn't know, with Sting. Sting comes out and beats up the NWO, then takes out his own partners, and now we won't see him again for 15 months.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So I mean, yeah, War Games was just doomed from the get, and like I said, this was as a result of that. Lex Luger told him he was going to hurt him. Oh, and he did.
yeah.
Beat the hell out of him with the foreign objects, puts him in the torture rack, which was pointless at this point. And then he wins by submission. Now Arn Anderson needs the stretcher, and I love how Dusty's like, "Oh, we need a doctor." They're like, "Oh, it's his neck or it's his shoulder." I'm like, "Okay, none of you have a PhD. You don't know what's wrong with him." Well, his hand's moving involuntarily.
Well,
I can do that too, guys.
It was return. He owed him. Lex Luger owed him a beating because remember they stomped him out like not too long before that. Mm-hmm. The Horseman had stomped him out, I believe, and so this was payback. The referee rang the bell and he kept him up in the torture rack.
Yes, he did.
And then he just threw him on the ground like a piece of trash. I was rooting for Luger. I never liked Arn Anderson, man. For whatever reason, I just didn't like him. So
I mean, his wrestling ability was there, but yeah, there's just something about him that you couldn't get behind.
I don't know. And then you had the dungeon in the crowd, the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah, you got Boss Man, you got.
But they called him something. They called him Big Bubba something. But
Big Bubba Rogers.
I don't even think they called him Rogers. I think it was Big Bubba something. I could be wrong. But
maybe I know they said Bubba.
They did say Bubba, but I think it was Big Bubba.
And then you got Conan over there.
I completely forgot. I haven't seen this in years. I completely forgot that Conan was part of the Dungeon of Doom
for a minute.
It must not have been long because I don't even remember
it. It wasn't.
Yeah. So
this was, and this is towards the end of the Dungeon of Doom.
Right. This is the end. Yeah. Thank God. But
seriously.
Yep. So
wasn't a bad match. Now this next one. Any Steve McMichael match to me is a 4-star flop, hands down. It's just he's garbage. He didn't know how to wrestle. He botched every move he did. He botched several moves in this match.
You know what? But I will forever be grateful to him that he brought in Deborah McMichael.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
and Austin thanks you.
Yes.
But so this one was the Horseman versus the Dungeon of Doom. It was Chris Benoit and Steve Mongo McMichael. Minus Pepe, versus the Faces of Fear, Barbarian and Ming with Jimmy Hart. Now, anytime McMichael wasn't in the ring, this was a good match. Anytime he got in the ring, it stunk up the place. Yeah. I'm sorry. The guy cannot wrestle. He didn't train enough. He did this too fast, and Bischoff got on his coattail immediately, bringing him in. I didn't like it. What I thought was funny, though, after this match, and obviously Benoit and McMichael get the victory, was Sullivan goes up to Woman, who now there's the real life thing here, and he tells her he's not the man. He'll never be the man. I am right here, and I'm going to show you. And he starts beating him down when he comes into the ring, and this is where the personal comes into business. Thank God it didn't escalate that far, but some of their matches they had were real shot on shots. But you had Woman at ringside with Deborah and the whole thing. And this is where I said you don't know who the Horsemen are fighting. Is it the NWO? Is it the Dungeon of Doom? Are you going to fight yourselves? What's going on here? But like I said, the match was decent except when Mongo got in the ring. Mm-hmm. The next match I actually love because these were two favorite tag teams of mine in WCW. One of them definitely. It was Harlem Heat, one of my personal WCW favorite. Defending the WCW tag team titles against the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, which obviously before the match starts what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I always loved when Sherry was their manager. When Robert Parker came around, I was like, just go. You don't fit. Yeah. I mean, sorry.
He cost him the match too.
Yes, he did.
Not intentionally, but still.
What was it? Scott Hall made out with her. And she's over there yelling at Parker, like, why didn't you help me? He goes, oh, no, I said, making up some excuse. But I loved how the crowd kept going back and forth, chanting Diesel and then Razor. Yeah. And then Razor's like, nah, that was back then. They were never going to get away from that.
You know what was cool about this? That Harlem Heat wasn't afraid of them. Especially.
No, they weren't. And 4 7-foot guys here. I don't know if you noticed, but
Well,
He
they're not
got
all,
some.
but they're all big. They're all big guys. Yeah,
I know Scott Hall. I think he stands about 6'7". I know
around there.
Booker's probably about the same
He's
thing,
around
and
there.
so Stevie Ray. But the legs on
Yeah,
these
they're
guys, I mean,
giant.
they were hitting all the high flying stuff. I mean, these two
No,
teams
this
were
was a
pretty
good match.
impressive.
This was a good match. It was two good teams, you know.
Hmm.
So
Unfortunately, like I said, Hall and Nash come away with the tag team titles.
he
So now NWO
grabbed
has
he
two of the
grabbed
belts.
he grabbed Rob. Somebody grabbed Rob Parker's or Colonel Parker's walking his cane, right, or something like that, and whacked
Hmm.
That's what happened. So
Yeah,
after
well, you didn't think it was going to be a clean victory.
no, but
Come
yeah,
on,
but they like they were trying to get the not WCW, NWO to get all the belts. So now they get the tag. They have the world.
they've confiscated the U.S. title, even though they don't own it outright.
I love
And
the
then
NWO, man.
six
This is
was
like
already challenging for the
for
cruiserweight
the
title.
cruiserweight. This is early NWO. This is like when
This
it
was the
ended.
This was the better NWO
Yeah. This is a
before it
very
became 40
yeah.
jobbers and Jeff Jarrett.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
So yeah,
Jesus.
this was the one I really loved.
Hmm.
Now the next match, I couldn't stop laughing because of his hairdo. Now we this is where Hogan came off of filming Three Ninjas
Yeah.
High Noon at Mega Mountain with that stupid toupee on his head, which I couldn't get over seeing that. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This was Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan,
Hollywood
excuse
Hulk
me,
Hogan. Yeah.
defending the WCW championship against the Macho Man Randy Savage. And I mean, this was a good match. They always have a good
I enjoyed
match.
it. It was fun. It was fun. I'm a Hogan
It's,
fan, besides the politics. I'm a Macho Man fan. So it was,
and at this time
we
now
grew
we're
up,
growing NWO fans.
right? And we grew up during that whole Hogan Macho Man feud. So, like, it's
Yes.
always great seeing those two guys. You know what was funny, too? This is kind of like a WrestleMania 4 reunion in a way.
Yeah, with
Because
DiBiase down there.
you got DiBiase, you got Hogan, got Macho Man, and you have the Giant. Even though it's not Andre the Giant, you still
Yes.
have the
And
Giant.
you had Elizabeth.
Right, yeah. So it was like the whole WrestleMania 4, at this
Yeah.
point, I think they just completely forgot that the Giant was supposed to be Andre the Giant's son, because initially he was brought in as that.
That was the gimmick. Yeah.
Had they kept that it would have been like WrestleMania 4 reborn.
8 years later.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah. Well, actually, it would have been WrestleMania 4 or 5, because it would have been better if DiBiase was in the ring, but he couldn't wrestle. So I mean, the outcome was typical NWO. Like Hogan gets the victory.
But how about Macho Man had the match won? He hit him with the elbow
Yes,
drop.
did.
Nick Patrick counts 1, 2, and then he grabs his neck. Listen, that's great stuff, though, man. I know
it is, but it's annoying
because
we wanted Savage to win the title.
No, I know what you're saying, but back then it's good storytelling.
It is.
It's good storytelling.
And Nick Patrick was good at selling that garbage.
He had him beat a couple times, then DiBiase gets involved, Giant gets involved, Hogan eventually wins.
Mm-hmm. After he gets his hair ripped off.
Yeah.
Then he's playing the bully with Elizabeth.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's
reversal.
You know what's funny when the Giant comes out and the Giant goes to get the ice water to wake up Hogan.
Yeah,
because basically he just put him on top of Hogan to get the 1, 2, 3, and Hogan's still knocked out cold.
He spilled half.
He spills half of it.
Idiot.
God.
That's why he was the first one out. Remember when we did the NWO episode?
Yeah.
How many times they brought in and out?
Drop the ball. But
how many times he gonna drop the ball?
Then he wakes up Hogan, and Hogan's all surprised. Oh, I won. And then
we hear the bagpipes.
Yep.
Roddy Piper is in WCW, and this was better than the match. And I got mad that we gotta go, because I hate when they do that nonsense. The two of them went back and forth. They bring up WrestleMania, which I'm surprised they got away with doing that, because they talked about WrestleMania, what Piper did and everything with Mr.
Well, he mentioned
T.
that he chased Mr. T or whatever.
He did something with Liberace and all and everything, and this is where the icon word is going to start getting thrown around a lot, which was funny because then all of a sudden on a Monday Night Raw, Shawn Michaels just goes around and goes, there's a lot of icon talk going around. You're looking at them, but this, these two guys actually have the icon versus icon match, and Piper was the one guy that Hogan couldn't get over with, and couldn't pull his BS with. So,
Yeah,
and
no fear,
I
the
love
no
how,
fear
yes,
shirt.
especially with Giant, that he goes, all
Yeah,
right, you stay right there, Sprout.
yeah.
I loved it. And Piper looked good.
He was great on the mic. Piper was great on the
Oh
mic.
man, one of the
This was
best
really
all
good,
time.
man. This is at a point where WCW is getting really good at this point. This is when
Yes.
it's starting to really. I
They're
mean, it
getting
probably
the
started a couple
traction.
months
They're getting the
before, but
ratings. Yeah.
yeah, it's starting to get good. Even though they bring in the old WWF guys. But I was surprised when Piper showed up. I remember being legitimately shocked because I never expected Piper to show up to WCW.
No. I
You
mean,
know,
he's left WWE quite a few times, but always come
right?
back. But now he went to the rival,
Mm-hmm.
and so I remember he made a comment around this time when he said that he goes up there. They don't cater. They don't have wrestlers that one hip wrestlers. He said that's right. There is no one hip up there. And that was I
Yeah.
guess mainly
Well, because
because of his surgery.
he had the surgery and he laid into Hogan. You never beat me. You know,
Hmm.
which is funny because Warrior says the same thing a couple years later, and then
But he gets
Hogan
buried.
Hogan gets upset about it. Like anyway,
But
but
then they made Warrior look like garbage.
yeah,
I think they tried with Piper on several. I know on the Super Brawl and whatnot, but it didn't work
yeah, but
because Piper wasn't going to buy it. It's a shame they did it to Warrior there.
so this was a really good ending,
It was
and I thought the pay per view was pretty good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
best
One of
Halloween
the
Havoc
better.
we've done so
Yeah,
far.
yeah,
And then the next one we're doing, Halloween Havoc 1997, will be even better because it has probably one of the best cruiserweight matches of all time.
hmm
That will be they'll be talking about, and another great card with the
yeah,
NWO.
yeah. So you guys make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.